Question is why and when you have decided to change your project from Simian to Simian Mobile Disc?
I guess that would be when we had a fight as Simian. Simian split up. I think we just got pissed off with each other. And while we were doing Simian, we were DJing a lot under the name Simian Mobile Disco. Just for fun, you know, like after we play as a band, we'd go off and just DJ a bit. It was just one of those things, like, we never really thought about doing it. It was just something that kind of carried on because DJing was fun, you know. So.
How much was important the Justice remix of We Are Your Friend in your change of style?
I don't think it was important in our change of style because we were doing that before the Justice mix. But it definitely helped us, you know, get DJ gigs and stuff like that and remixes. So yeah.
And what about your pop attitude? I have to make an example. Your tracks are electro dance, but I think are very pop, very good for radios.
Right.
What do you think about it? You try to do this, or it's casual?
Not really for radio. I've always even back in Simian, the idea of fusing songs has always been something that's interesting, and you know, to lesser and greater success doing it. You know, it's definitely an area where you could go a long way wrong. So with the first record, we really took the vocals and cut them up so they would fit into more electronic kind of aesthetic. Whereas with this one, the vocals were so strong that we went with the vocal rather than against it. And I think that was less thinking about radio, more I guess coming from the fact that both of us have been doing a lot of producing, and we're used to taking music and fitting it around the vocal, you know, that kind of arrangement. And once we had all those vocals, we just sort of felt that it had taken on a life of its own and become like a kind of, rather than a club project, it had become like a home listening thing. It was definitely never intended to go on the radio, but it certainly was intended to work at home rather than in the club.
This album, Temporary Pleasure, is not only for me, really, more 80s styled. And why did you choose this way of sound?
It certainly wasn't intentional. It's one of those things actually, one thing that we look for when we're making music is the moment that it starts to almost control itself, you know, so our intentions are subverted by chance, you know, by vocals coming back and changing what we originally wanted. I mean, the idea for the record was supposed to be a club record, maybe one or two vocals. It didn't work out that way.
But 80s style is inside your music culture, or you prefer other things?
I prefer other things as well, you know. You know, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of instruments from that time that we use, you know, synths and drum machines, that we find really easy to use. We find them to be like instruments, much more so than software. You know, there's something I really like about, you know, kind of the early acid house stuff and the early Detroit stuff, that you can tell it's a guy, maybe a drum machine, one synth, a delay box and a mixer. He just presses go and plays it, and maybe does 5 or 6 takes and chooses the best one. Something about that I really like, much more than the kind of current thing where people draw envelopes, you know, and draw parameters inside the computer. I don't know. There's less margin for accidents and kind of for things to happen on instinct.
Okay. And what about the featurings in Temporary Pleasure?
Yeah.
How did you choose these artists? casual or not?
It was
Because,
very casual, yeah.
It was very casual.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we made like a couple of dozen tracks. Went through, and some of them just had space for a vocal. So we would just think, you know, what kind of texture, what sort of vocal would we be looking for? You know, like kind of female vocal, male vocal, you know, different sort of styles. You know, you could just imagine a certain person's voice fitting into a certain track. So yeah, like on the basis of that, we kind of thought, who do we know that could do this kind of job? And all these people, we just met them as we were touring.
Can we explain the change in Jamie Liddell's voice between his classical works that are soul? In your album, he has a strange voice.
He does have a strange voice. Yeah. Actually, if you listen back to the stuff that he did with Christian Vogel, it's a Super Collider. It's very much in that vein. And that was when we first met him touring with Christian, and I was a massive fan of the Super Collider stuff. And when we were talking to Jamie about what we were going to do, he had some like vague ideas for vocals, but his main thing was that he didn't want to hear any of his own voice. He just wanted to feed his voice into all our synths and boxes, so that he'd have loads of dials to twist while he was singing. He was screaming away and like grabbing stuff, and I think that's that kind of feedback between him singing and then the machine turning it into something weirder, and then him feeding back off that, was the process that sort of drove the performance.
How did you meet Beth Ditto from Gossip?
We met Beth in Glastonbury, but we definitely met her quite a few times. You know, obviously she was touring with the Gossip. So we saw her loads of times at gigs, you know, like standing at the side of bands, watching bands or whatever. So yeah, we just got chatting to her.
And if you have to choose the best live set you made, what can you say?
The best live set we ever made?
The best live, or the most strange?
The
most strange place, I don't know.
Actually, one of the strangest things we ever did was in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
We were booked to play in a club, and we thought we were going to be playing really late. We prefer to play late, but the promoter really wanted us to play early because he said that people would want to be able to get the train home. So we said, fair enough, we'll play, and so we played. But then, like, as it got on throughout the evening, the vibe got better, and he said, look, I know it sounds weird, but it's a completely different crowd. Will you play again? So we thought, okay, if we play again though, we're not going to play it straight, we're just going to completely change it up. And so we just played another set and just like basically messed around. So we played, twice in one night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
No question about you can another see you.
Right, yeah.